Hi, this is Melissa, and this is Book Break. I am so excited for our guest, Angeline Boulley, and she has this amazing new book, Warrior Girl Unearthed. And you've probably heard of her. Her previous book was Firekeeper's Daughter, which is a New York Times bestseller. And if you've read her stuff, you obviously love it. If you haven't, you're gonna. Let's bring her on in. Hey, Angeline, thank you so much for joining us. So, for those that sadly haven't read your stuff yet, let's start with your newest book, The Warrior Girl Unearthed, which right there above my head. Tell us the premise of this book.
So I pitched Warrior Girl Unearthed as Indigenous Lara Croft, but instead of raiding tombs, the main character is raiding museums to retrieve ancestral remains and sacred items that should be returned to tribes. And so she's 16 and none of her heists go the way she planned.
Yeah. And, for someone in my own ancestral line, I have some tribe heritage. But even if I didn't, I feel like what you have brought forward in your books is a beautiful example of what really the founders of the United States nation and those that were really here before us, this is a beautiful culture and heritage. And I love that with your book, you're so respectful and you're very much showing us some things that many Americans have kind of forgotten about those that were here before. Tell us a little more about that.
Well, it's, there are 574 federally recognized tribes in the United States. And each tribe is unique, has its own history, culture, language or dialects. And so really, I'm just telling a story about my community. And there are so many more stories out there and incredible authors that, I hope if you like my book, please seek out another Indigenous author to try.
Yeah. And, I feel like your book is really applicable to anyone that enjoys history, for one. And I really also feel like it's kind of a crossover. So whether it's for a kid that's maybe in middle school or high school or an adult, you really hit a lot of fun aspects in the storyline and in the prose. You have mystery, you have intrigue, you have adventure. Tell us a little more about that.
Well, the topic of repatriation is a pretty intense one. And so that's why Perry, my 16-year-old protagonist, she is an excellent narrator for the story because she's funny, she's got a joyful spirit about her. And really that lightness was a great balance and really necessary in telling this oftentimes intense story.
Yeah, and I think some of the aspects that you hit in this intense story make it, an eye-opening experience for maybe people that don't understand all of the different cultural aspects. So, for example, this is going to be a little hard one, not for you because you understand, but for some folks, girls were going missing. And unfortunately, because they were a member of a tribe, other people were not giving it the attention that it really needed. If this was somewhere else in the US, there would be a lot more media attention and everything else. But because this was an indigenous group, they weren't getting the attention that they needed. Let's talk about that for a moment.
Well, Black and brown girls and women go missing all the time, and you do not see the level of media attention as when the person is white. And so that perpetuates the myth of the perfect victim. And then for Native people, it's especially troubling because we don't have access to the same avenues for justice, because if a non-Native person comes onto a reservation and commits a violent crime against a Native woman, um, the state police, it's not a matter for law enforcement. The tribe can't arrest the person. It, only the federal government can prosecute the individual, and their resources are stretched so thin, and so typically they, non-Native people could get away with crimes on reservations.
Yeah, and that's so heartbreaking. I also felt like when I was reading your book, there was a theme about how important it is for young people to be advocates and to be paying attention to what's going on in their community, because this group of individuals were really advocates for their community and working hard to be there. They were able to bring in attention that really needed to be there. And so I'm curious from you, what were some ideas that you had for our young people across the US, regardless of where they come from? How important is it for them to be involved and to pay attention to difficult things going on in their communities?
Well, I love the enthusiasm and activism that young people, when they learn about something that means something to them and the way that they want to become active and make changes, it's really inspiring. And so, Perry is a 16-year-old girl who learns about Native human remains being kept in museums and archives, and she's determined to do something about it. And so I wanted to speak to that, but I don't want any young person to feel that they have to set themselves on fire to keep a cause warm. Like I want people to have full lives where activism is a part of their life, but it's not all consuming. And that's another aspect of the story.
Yeah, I think that was beautifully illustrated. And I think something else that I just really loved about this book is it showed us that really, whatever community we come from, we can make a difference, and we don't have to just sit back and watch bad things happen. We can have a voice regardless of our age, whether or not we're a kid or a teenager or an adult, but the important part is to speak out.
Exactly.
So thank you so much for visiting with us. We have on our banner there on the bottom places where our viewers can find you on social media, on your website. And I really encourage our viewers, please go read Angeline's books. They're phenomenal wherever you come from, not just her Warrior Girl Unearthed, her previous book, Firekeeper's Daughter. They're so good. Thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, miigwech. Thank you.
Hi, I am excited to talk with our guest right now. Her name is Graci Kim, and she has a really great middle grade, school-age children novel that she just completed the series on, The Last Realm, right above my head. And let's just bring her right in.
Hi.
So this is really fun because not only is it an adventurous, fun, kids book, it also teaches us a lot about Korean culture. So for those that haven't had the chance to read your series yet, tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, so the whole story, the 3 books are inspired by Korean mythology. So they're really inspired by the stories that my parents and my grandmother told us when we were younger. But I've taken it and I've really modernized it. So it's set in today's world. So it's set, first book is set in LA. The second book is kind of set in New York. You'll see what I mean if you read it. And then the last book is kind of set in Las Vegas. So it's very much today. It's very much injected with current pop culture and current references in general, but with this magical world hiding just behind.
Yeah. And, it's funny, right before I read your book, I had just gotten back from Las Vegas. And so as I'm reading about the different landmarks, I'm like, oh, I know where that is. And I know where that is. And so it was really fun. So that's something that, like you said, and you said it in real places. And so people will enjoy kind of knowing those different places that it sets. So this is the third book, like we mentioned, in a series. And this is about Riley O and her brother Dal O, but their family and just the whole goddesses that are potentially going to go to war with them. But I hadn't read the first two books in the series when I read this one first, but I still felt like I enjoyed the book. And so for somebody that's like, well, can I just jump in right now? It's so exciting. Yes, you can. But what are the first two books?
So the first two books, the very first one is really the introduction to Riley O. So she is adopted into a family of basically healing witches from Korean, from a Korean lineage, I guess, of these magical people. Except she herself, Riley O, is from a family who's not magical. And so the whole story really begins with her wanting magic because she wants to fit in and she wants to belong. And so her sister, Hattie, she has this idea of sharing half of her magic with Riley. And so they do this forbidden spell. It's very dangerous. They're not supposed to do it, but they do it anyway. And as is wont to do in a good story, everything goes to custard. And so then the story is really about Riley trying to find this last fallen star, whatever or wherever it is, to try to save her sister. And then the second book really is Riley trying to solve the problems that she created in the first book to try to make things better. And to do so, she goes into the spirit realm, which, uncannily looks like New York City. Who would have known?
Who would have thought?
And then again, as a result of all of the actions in book one and book two, as you alluded to before, this potential warfare with the goddesses, which conspire in book three.
Yeah. And one of the things I also really enjoyed about The Last Realm is that you have some really fun, good, important lessons woven all throughout the book. So if kids don't want to learn lessons, don't listen for a second, but parents are going to love this. And I have kids the same age, 13-year-olds. And so tell us a little bit about the lessons that you very craftily, if that's a word, I don't know, but I'm going to make it up, woven to the story.
So you make an incredibly good point, which is that I think my main goal, my main wish is that readers will enjoy this book for what it is, the magic and the adventure and the fantasy. And if they can come away just loving that, I would be so pleased. But which yes, you're also right. There are messages, and I don't think they're heavy-hitting messages, but they're there. And one of the biggest ones is about choice. And I think that choice is so important, and choice is so powerful because regardless of how old we are, it's the one thing that nobody can take from us and nobody can make for us. So to me, it's like our real life magic superpower. Because, life can get messy, right? Some things are hard, some things are unfair, some things can be tough. And regardless of that, I guess how we let ourselves be changed or affected, how we react to the things that happen in life, that is our choice. Resilience is a choice. Being unhappy is also a choice. So those are things that I hope anyway, that I've explored a little through that, because I think it really is powerful.
Yeah, I agree. I thought that it was really well done. So a child is not going to be, in the middle of the adventure and going, what am I learning here? But it's subtly done well enough that it will make them think. And, one other thought I had while I was reading it is in the story, Riley suffers with imposter syndrome, right? Where everyone thinks she's going to be this great leader and that somehow she's going to save the world. But she just is like, what? No, I can't do this. This is not something that I can do. But her brother comes in and talks to her about, hey, you know what? you got to believe in yourself. And sometimes we're all really good at something, but maybe we don't want to admit it and we're suffering with imposter syndrome. And so that was something that really resonated with me because I see that a lot, not just with kids, but with adults. So I thought it was really great. And there was fun twists and turn in the book. It was really well done. So Graci, where can our viewers go to learn more about you and your series?
So I'm always available at my website, which is gracikim.com, Graci spelled with an I, Graci. I have a contact form on there. I'm always reachable, but I'm also on social media, and the main social media channel I use these days is Instagram, and my handle there is Graci Kim Writes.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here with us today, Graci.
Thank you so much for having me.
And we hope you viewers hurry and go get the book if you don't have it yet.
Yes, please.
Thanks.